I just feel like Tank doesn't want to do it anymore. I feel like Tank is ready to retire, and this is his retirement arc. This is what he's doing right now. He's on his retirement arc. Because fighters don't take fights like this unless they're on their way out. You guys remember Floyd Mayweather used to did that. When he was on his way out. He started fighting the Bertos of the world. What was the last fight he had? Fucking Conor McGregor. So that's when you start taking those type of fights. You know what I mean? So Canelo is the same thing. He feels like he doesn't have anything to prove, and he's just gonna take a lot of these somewhat gimmicky fights. So that's what I feel Shakur is on right. I mean, Tank is on right now. Tank is on that arc, um, on his retirement arc. But yeah, he had no choice but to get this fight. And if he did have a choice, he wasn't gonna take it because I don't know what's going on, dude. Not when it comes to that, but when it comes to the future of boxing, I think I could see a pattern forming, in front of me. And judging by the way things happened in the past, I could see that boxing is going to go into a mythology stage. In order for me to predict the future, I'm gonna have to go to the past for a little bit and talk about some of the first martial arts to ever be mythologized. And we have to talk about the oldest sport, combative sport in the world, which is wrestling. Now, wrestling at the beginning was a very brutal sport, and every region of the world had its own type of wrestling that they would use. But it's the oldest. Why? Because it's the most natural to humans, for the human body to do it. It's more natural than striking. That's for sure. Excuse me. I had to burp there. But anyways, but now, and even before the era of today, wrestling was mythologized, even in Greek times. And but if we fast forward to today, it's become, and the mythologizing is a way of saying it, but what I call it is it's fake, right? Because even back when it was happening in England, in the British Islands, it was a brutal sport. And in fact, boxing, and I've said this before, boxing and wrestling were one and the same. And it was very brutal. Like I said, you could grab people from the head, from the hair, and punch them. You could pull them down, kick them, hold them down, break an arm, break something, whatever you wanted to break. You could do that. But then the separate Queensberry rules kicked in, and then wrestling had to go its own separate way. And they were like, hey, well, you could grab in this sport, but in boxing you can't do it. And then Dutch boxing went another way, right? And but then wrestling was still brutal. Wrestling was still, seen as a brutal sport because a lot of people were getting injured, a lot of people were dying, losing arms. And people just didn't want to see it anymore. It started to become boring as well because it was too much, posing and moving around each other and shit. Too much fainting, right? Because they were scared of losing their arms. People didn't understand. Like, yeah, the reason they're doing that is because they're scared of losing their freaking fingers and shit, or losing their lives with a power driver or a freaking suplex. Um, Listen, if those moves are performed for real, you could lose your life. Okay, they're not meant to be practiced unless you're prepared to kill the other person. So what happened was that promoters decided to fake it, to fix the fights. Why? Because you're going to be able to see the moves that you like to see, but not necessarily watch somebody die. And not only that, you could use that same gladiator over and over and over and over again and keep making money off of these guys instead of losing your fighters weekly. So that's why they started fixing fights. Now, the problem was that at the beginning they weren't it wasn't working because people weren't interested in it anyways. So what they did is they created a bad guy, you know, and the first bad guy I think was Gorgeous George, I believe. And this guy was brilliant, so they made him become a bad guy, and they attracted people because that's what humans need. They need somebody to hate, somebody to go against, to root against. And that's what he did, and that's how wrestling became famous, or not famous. It became what it is today. So humans don't really care if it's fake or real. The masses care about entertainment. The masses care if they hate somebody, they'll join in on the bashing of that one person. And in the case of boxing today, the first Gorgeous George, or whatever his name is, our version of that is Jake Paul. Okay, and he's going to be, in my opinion, the first guy to do this for boxing. This is the guy that's going to bring about the new era of boxing. That's my prediction. It happened to Kung Fu. Because Kung Fu, that was some real shit in the beginning. A lot of guys were losing their lives in these tournaments back in China. Or, losing an eye, or like I said, losing an arm. That shit was real. It doesn't work anymore because Kung Fu has been mythologized. And all of the moves, they still work. And some of the things still work, and they can work, and they will work if you know how to use it. You know how to decipher those moves. But they just haven't been used in that way in such a long time that it's hard to figure out what you're doing sometimes. Every sport goes through it. Every, not sport, but like martial arts based sport. Combative sport is what I meant. They all go through the same thing. Right? So boxing is just another one of these sports that's going to go into the mythologization or mythologized. It's going to be mythologized. And fights are going to start to get fixed. And it's going to start slow, guys. It's not going to be right away. It's going to be the main events. The main events are the first things that are going to start happening like that. The undercards are going to be real. But once these undercards, one of these guys gets famous from the undercards, that's when more people start to conspire for or against that guy. Okay, let's say Shakur Stevenson is in the undercard, which he's not, by the way, because he's with Turkey right now. But let's just say, right now, Shakur, he's not that famous. He's kind of famous, but he's not that famous. If he was on this card, he'd become extremely famous. I'm talking about everybody's gonna know who he is immediately. People in Mexico are gonna know who he is. People in China are gonna know who he is. People in Japan are gonna know who he is. Worldwide famous. And then what's going to happen is immediately you're going to have a bunch of promoters, a bunch of people that promote Nike, people that have Adidas and different types of televisions and different types of drinks are going to want to come and join the party. But now all of these people are going to want him to either lose or win. And when there's more at stake, that's when things start to become fixed. then that's when things are become more likely to become fixed. And that's why I want to tell people today, you don't have to worry about either of these guys getting humiliated on the night of the fight, because this is a fixed fight. This is the beginning of the mythologizing of boxing. It happened with Mike Tyson, by the way. I mean, if you think Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul was a real fight, you are, my friend, stupid. No offense, but you are a fucking asshole. uh, that's a joke that kind of it's from Anchorman. I think Anchorman 2 or 1, one of those. But anyways, yeah, man, that fight was not real. Okay, yes, Mike Tyson was old. Yes, but Jake Paul could have destroyed him. Jake Paul could have destroyed him, especially in those last 3 rounds. Jake Paul could have just gone all out on him, but he didn't. Part of it was because he was sorry for Mike, but another part was because it's an exhibition. And in an exhibition, you're not allowed to knock people out. And this is all a test, by the way. This is all. We're going to use the word exhibition for now. And we're going to see what happens. Do people like this? And the answer is yes, by the way. They don't have to be doing these tests. People don't care about real or fake. Why do you think wrestling is more famous than boxing right now? Everybody knows it's fake. Huh? Worldwide, what's more popular? Boxing or wrestling? Professional wrestling. Really quick. Raise your hands. Raise your hands. You in the back. Who do you think? Porn. Okay, yeah, you touche.